In this video, we're going to use regular expressions and JavaScript to validate some entries in the text boxes. And I'm only going to use the ones that I have a specific pattern that I can test with a regular expression. So these are three different text boxes that have specific patterns that I can test. So let's go ahead and start with the department. I want to test this once the submit button has been clicked. So I'm going to go inside the listener that listens for the click event on the submit button. So here it is, and that's where it begins, and right here is where it ends. Oops, no, clear down here. That's where it ends. So this is the event listener for when the button is clicked, right? When that submit button is clicked. So remember what I've got going on and what we already have going on inside here, right? I've got some variables that I've learned, and the one that I want to pay attention to is this error one. Because I started out false. If anything produces an error, then that error value is set to true. And I get down here, the last thing that I do is I test. If there's an error, that means if it's been set to true by anything, then it's going to prevent that default submission. So we've already tested the file names. Now we want to validate that the text box. So we're going to validate the department text entry is correct. And what that means is our departments are letters that are letters and they're 7 to 10 letters long. So we want to say that it's 7 to 10 letters long. So that's what we need to do. So to do this part, we're going to set the pattern equal to that. So the pattern is going to be equal to a character, so a letter. So if I do, right, I can do a word, but that includes special characters as well, and numbers. Well, it's letters, lowercase, uppercase letters, the underscore, and the numeric digits. So a word won't work for us. So I need to be able to say that, okay, it can be anything from A to Z, there's my lowercase, and then it can be anything from A to capital Z, that's my uppercase letters. So that gives me all the letters. Notice that I can use ranges on letters, and they need to go in the same order that you find them on the ASCII table. So if you're not sure, you can go ahead and look up on the ASCII table, but they go from smaller to larger, from lowercase a to lowercase z, and then they also go from uppercase A to uppercase C. And it doesn't matter what order you put these ranges in, because it's going to allow both ranges. All right, so now I need to be able to say, remember that when you put it in a character class, when you put it in these square brackets, it will choose one character from anything listed in here. So that only gives us one, and we need 7 to 10 of them. So we have to say how many we need, and inside the curly braces you can identify how many, and we do that by saying the range. We say 7, 10, and that tells us. If we know exactly how many we need, like if we need just 7, then we would put it like that. We would say, okay, we need 7 of these letters, right? This says a letter, and then we say we need 7 of them. Or if we just put 7 comma, what that means is 7 or more. So it will take at least 7 and then any more. But we want to put from 7 to 10. We want a lower limit and an upper limit. So the way you do that is 7, 10. So when you're trying to quantify, that goes in curly braces. So that's my pattern. I don't have to put a flag up, that it's case insensitive, because I included both the uppercase and the lowercase. So this is 7 to 10 letters long. And now I'm not going to be using a file name, so I won't use that, but I will just use a variable that is the text box value. So we'll be using this too, so I'll put it up here. Text entered. And then I can come down and we'll be able to use that later on those other ones. So now we're going to say the text entered equals, and we're going to go get that from document.getElementById, and we need to go get that department text box. So let's go find out what that is called. So let's type password. Oh, where's the department? Oh, I think this is, I've got two IDs and names here, so let's call that one department, the abbreviation for it, and that one for the department, right? And this one doesn't need to be a password, it can just be of type text, because that doesn't need to be asterisked over. Okay, so there's the department, and we're just simply going to call it the UP. And that, so ID equals, we'll save that file and then go in here and say department. And what I want to get from that text box is the value. Okay, and now I can ask those same questions. If text entered is equal to nothing, that means I didn't put anything in there. So I want to be able to write, and I'm going to put the right exactly by that text box. I'm going to add a span and do ID equals, and here I'm going to put department message, and then here I can go say, okay, go get that span tag, and set its inner HTML, right? What's between the opening and closing tags to you must enter a department. Okay, and that's what we want to have happen, and this would be an error. So we want to be sure and set that error equal to true. Then we can also add, the next thing we want to ask, else if, we don't want to ask it if they didn't enter anything, because we already know they didn't. So now we want to ask pattern.test, and we're going to test the text entered, right, to see if it has the pattern in it that we're expecting. If it has the pattern in it, then we just have to get that that message. Department message. Oops, I didn't catch it. And set the inner HTML equal to nothing, because that means everything is fine. And we won't set that to an error, right? So no error, and we just set it to nothing. Now our last case is if the pattern is not found, right? Then it is a problem, and we want to set error equal to true to identify this is an error. Remember that we're using that true value, not a string, so don't put it in quotes. It's that a keyword. Okay, document.getElement. We use this a ton, right? And again, we want to get that department message and set the inner HTML of it to be equal to, now we don't necessarily want to tell them, the HR would have given them the department, so they don't need to know that it's 710. We don't want them to make it up. We want them to put in the right department without telling them how it should be. So that department is not correct. Please check and re-enter. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. So we want to give him that message that it's not correct. All right, so that validates the department. Let's go see what happens here. So now we reload, and we know that we've already set here that we've got to have a resume file. It needs to be of type JPEG, and then I won't check that, so that won't be a problem. And now we're going to enter the department, and we'll call this department department and submit and see how we did. Okay, looks like it worked. Let's go back and try a department that only has 4 letters. It only has 4 and submit. Oh, and it says that department is not correct. Please check and re-enter the department. Nice. Okay, let's go ahead and try it when they leave it empty. Oh, I reloaded, so I'm going to have to choose a resume again. And not enter the department. And it says you must enter a department. So notice it gives us a different, looks like we could style that span a little better, but we'll get around to that. It's red, which is good, and showing up, and it's doing exactly what we want. So there we've tested the department. Let's move to this one to enter the application code. Again, this is something that HR has given them. So I'm going to do this same kind of copy because this is going to be very similar. It's just going to use a different text box so that the code entry is correct. All right, and the code entry, again, this is a pattern that the users don't know, but that we know, right? And we know in our company that it's a -- slash, so it's 2 numbers, a slash, 3 letters, and then the @ sign and 2 more letters. So we know that it follows that pattern. So we can create that pattern. And that pattern is going to be, so what I can use for a number is a /d because that's a new number digit, and then I do another /d for 2, and then I need a slash, but notice that that / has special meaning. In fact, it's saying that we're going to end this. So to actually get a slash in the pattern itself, I have to use the escape operator, that's that \. So I use the escape character to say, no, I want it a digit, followed by a digit, followed by a slash. Okay, and then I need a letter, and we know how to do letters. A to Z, A to Z, and I want 3 of those, so I can do curly braces 3. By the way, I could have done curly braces 2 over here, but that was a little bit more. And then I want that followed by an @ sign, and the @ sign doesn't have any special meaning, so I can just put it there directly. And then I need 2 more letters. So I'm going to, I need square brackets. Put those in. And then I want to make sure that there's nothing after that. That's the last thing. So I'm going to put that $sign to assert that it's at the end. I'm also going to say it needs to start with this. So I really want nothing before and nothing after this pattern. So I'm going to put that saying this is the beginning and the end of this pattern. So nothing else can be there. All right. Let's save this and reload and see what we get. We can go ahead and say we want to be in the product department. We know that that works. And now let's do an application code that is not correct. Well, let's first try it and see if we can get it to work. 5, 6. I'm entering 5, 6. This makes it harder, huh? /ERE@DF. All right, so if I typed it right, I put that in there correct. Let's go ahead and get our resume file. And test it. Oh, what did we do wrong? It says that department is not correct. Please check and re-enter the department. Let's go see what we did. It says, oh, we weren't done, right? So we copy pasted, changed the pattern, but then we forgot to change everything else. So changing the pattern is not enough. We want to get the value not from the department, but we want to get the value from the code. All right, so the ID equals code. That's one of the disadvantages about copy paste. You've got to be careful to finish the job. So we're going to get the value from the code text box. And if the text entered is nothing, we're going to set error and we're going to change the code message. Let's go in and go ahead and add a code message right here after the label. No, right after the password input. So I'm going to add span, and I'm going to set the ID equal to code message. Okay, and save that. And there's code message. And I want to say you must enter a code. And here, then we're going to test if that pattern was found in the text entered. Then we're going to say, hey, the code message is fine. So there's the code message is fine, and we don't have to leave any mess, and we don't have to write anything to that span tag. Otherwise, if we don't find a pattern, then we're going to set it to error to true, and we're going to change this to code message and say that code is not correct. Please check and re-enter the code. Now if somebody's making it up, we're not giving them clues about what they are. We really want to verify that they're getting this from HR and not just somebody making it up. This is our way to not get all those applications if they haven't been through HR. Okay. So now let's test it and see what happens. So we're going to put the department as product. Or we could have, okay. And then choose a file for our resume. And try, if we submit the application when nothing's there, okay, it says you must enter a code, that's what we expect. If we do something 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, so this is a wrong one, what happens when we try to submit? Said that code is not correct, please check and re-enter the code. And then let's try one that is correct. 5, 4 slash letters, 1, 2, 3 letters, the @ sign and 2 more letters, and submit the application. Okay, it didn't work. Let's go check it out. Maybe my typo was bad. Let's go look at the pattern. So the pattern is 2 numbers followed by the slash, then 3 letters, an @ sign, and oh, it looks like what we did was we ended up with a single letter when we really need 2. So the pattern is digit, digit, /, 3 letters, right? We said 3 letters, an @ sign, and then 2 letters. So let's go ahead and say we need 2 here. I just forgot to add the quantifier to say that we needed 2 of these at the end. Let's go ahead and save that and see if it works. So to reload, we need to choose our resume. We won't check that. We'll add the department. We'll do new sales is one of the departments. Let's try that one. And then our code. Okay, let's see. 2 numbers, the slash, 3 letters, the @ sign, and then 2 letters. And cross fingers. And it worked. No, we don't want it to save. Notice that the browser has, this is something the browser adds. It's not something that's part of our code. All right, it worked, and let's double check and see the pattern. 2 numbers, slash, 3 letters, @ sign, and 2 letters. So it worked. Yahoo! All right, we have one more that we need to take care of, and that is the login name. So enter a login name must be at least 5 characters long and contain 2 of the following. All right, so look what we have to test here. We need to make sure it's 5 characters long. Let's do that first. So we are going to validate that, what is this called? This is the login name. Login name is correct. That's 5 characters. And 2 of letter, number, and special character. And specifically, there were some special characters there, right? So let's get the ones that they were. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. We need to figure out a pattern for this. But notice we've got several patterns. So we're going to have to do this a little bit different. So we're going to first make sure that there are 5 characters, right? And so the pattern really is, and it doesn't say these could be anything, it just needs to be 5 of something. So I'm going to use a dot for that. And I'm going to say it's 5, comma, that's 5 or more of anything. And okay, that's going to be my pattern. And then I'm going to say, oh, the text value, right? So the text entered equals, and I'm going to have to go get this. And let's see what this is. This is the very bottom. It's a login, so the ID is login. Dot value. All right, so that's the text entered. And now I can say if pattern dot text entered test, right, we're going to test it, and we're going to test it that the text entered if it has that pattern in there, if there's a match, right? So if there's a match, we're still not set, right? But it's got to be at least 5 no matter what kind of combination. Now we need to figure out how to test if it's a letter, a number, or a special character is contained in there. The problem now is that these could be contained in any kind of order. And so writing a regular expression that would test for all of these would be a little bit more complex. We could do it. We could do all the combinations of what order they come in. Or we could simply ask individual questions. So we could have a pattern. So I'm going to say pattern 2 is equal to, and this really says there needs to be a letter in there. So this could be, it could be 0, it could be a character, and then a letter. Remember, we know how to do a letter. It's A to Z, followed by anything, right? And so this identifies any kind of character, then a letter, and then any kind of character. Well, what we want to do is expand this so it could be any number. So, and it could be 0, right? We're just asking, is there a letter in this? So there could be any number before, but we don't really need to specify whether it comes before or after. We can just say, is there a letter in it? And so it's a very general question because we don't care what comes before or after. We just need to know if there's a letter in it at all. And then our next pattern, oh, these, by the way, don't exist yet, so I need to define them. Remember, pattern has already been defined up at the very top of the function. Pattern, and we'll do pattern 3. And this one, we're simply going to ask if there's a number in there. And so we just say \d, that tells us there's a number in there. And the next pattern is 4, and we're going to say, is there a special character in there? Let's go, can you find any matches that have a pound, $, caret, if I can find my caret, asterisk, or hyphen. Now, caret has special meaning inside a character class, but only if it's the first one. So if it's the first character, then it means not. So since it's in the middle, it has no special meaning. Hyphens do have meaning, so we're going to escape that and say, no, we want to actually look for the hyphen there. Whoa, guess I'll pause and go get my battery plugged in. Just a minute. Okay, now we're plugged in. All right, so pattern number 4 is just saying, is there one of these characters in there? And that's all. Oh, we have to end it with a slash, right? That's how we begin and end our regular expressions in JavaScript, is they're surrounded by this /slashes. Okay, so pattern 2 asks if there's a letter in the text. Pattern 3 asks if there's a digit, a number in it, and pattern 4 asks if there's one of these special characters. So we need to have 2 of these, right? So I'm going to have a count. So I'm going to define match count and set it equal to 0. All right, before I test it. And then I'm going to ask each of these questions. So inside here, if it's long enough, so there's no need to test any of these if it's not long enough. So this one tests that it's at least 5 long. And if it is, then I'm going to say if pattern 2 is found, right, is pattern2.test. So I'm going to test that to see if it's found in the text entered. If it's found, then I'm going to increment count. Match count. I'm just going to say add 1 to it. Okay? And then I'm going to ask if pattern 2 is found, or pattern 3 is, I'm going to test it to see if it was found in the text entered. And if it is found, then I'm going to increment match count. And then I'm going to ask if pattern 4 tests, if it's found in there. Then I'm going to increment match count. All right, and then I can ask if, notice I'm not doing else if, because I need it to test every one of these conditions, so there's no else here. If this happens, increment, then test. If this happens, increment, then test if this increment. And then at the very end, if match count is less than 2, right, it has to be 2 of those or more. So if it's less than 2, this is where we get our error. We say that error is true, because that's where our problem is, if it's less than 2, and we want to write out a problem. We probably have to go add a span tag by that. And set an ID, login message, document.getElementById, parentheses, login message, inner HTML equals the login name must contain 2 of the types listed. I'm not going to list them again. They're in a menu. I mean, they're already in a UL. So they can just look up. It's really close. They can just look up to get that. Okay, so that tests, this says there were 5, at least 5, right, of anything entered. And then it asks, is there a letter in it? Is there a number in it? Is there a special character? And it counts each of those. And if match count is less than 2, there's an error, and we're going to write an error message. Now, if we get out here, if there weren't 5 entered, then we need to put a different message, right? Else, and now we need to say that there needs to be at least 5. So it's a different thing. Oops, I missed it. Inner HTML equals, and here's where I'm going to say the login name must have at least 5 characters. All right, let's go see if we've got this one to work. Okay. So we're going to reload. We're going to fill up, get our resume because we know it won't work without that. We know that we can just not check that. We can enter the department as product and application code. Let's see if I can do this. Do numbers, a slash, 3 letters, an @ 2 letters. Okay, now let's see if it tests for login screen. Login name only has 2, and we submit. Oh, what do we do? We only put 2. It looked like it flashed an error message, but now it's gone, which means in this case, when it's less than 5, I forgot to set the error equal to true. And that was the only error on the page, so it didn't prevent it from doing the default submission. Okay, let's try again. Load the resume. Enter the department, new sales, enter the application code, 2 numbers, 3 letters, slash, no, 2 numbers slash 3 letters, @ 2 letters, and only 2 here, submit. It says the login must have at least 5 characters, so it catches it if it's not enough. Okay, and then let me put all letters. I've got enough, but they're all letters. And it says the login must contain 2 of the types. Oh, I need to change that to types listed. So that one just had letters. Now let me do letters and numbers. And it took them. Letters and numbers follows the pattern. Let's go ahead and test it with, notice that the passwords, when I go backwards, the file stays. I just using the back arrow. The file stays and the text box stays, but passwords do not. And the login name, this time I'm going to put numbers and special characters. Oh, I have to be careful about which special characters, right? It has to be the £, or the $, or the caret. Let's see how we did. Okay, so it accepted that. So it accepted numbers and special characters. It accepted let's see if it'll do letters and special characters. And sure enough, so it's working for us. So that's how we use JavaScript and regular expressions to validate the entry in text boxes.